The other situation I had where I filed a report against a physician was before we get started, make sure you hit the like button, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure you turn on that notification bell. Hello, welcome to Nursing with Professor B. My name is Bridget. I have a master's degree in nursing education. I'm also a family nurse practitioner. First, let me start off by saying that there are some great medical doctors out there and that they're not all egotistical, stuck up, or rude. The other situation I had where I filed a report against a physician was because in the hospital, and this is why it's so hard to be a bedside nurse, right? You have to keep up with the requirements that management sets, and then you also have to follow physician orders, and then you also have to keep your patient satisfaction scores, your patients happy, basically, because of HCAHPS, your patient satisfaction scores, which is how Medicare and Medicaid reimburses patients. So in this situation, our hospital had a policy that it's for VTE prophylaxis, venous thromboembolism. When patients are admitted to the hospital, because they are sedentary, the risk is that they're going to throw a clot if there is certain risk, right? So when your patient is admitted into your unit, you have to ask them several questions, and there's different ratings, but are they obese? What's their age? Do they have reduced mobility? So if you answer questions yes, 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 if their VTE score is greater than 2, that means that they are at increased risk for a clot. And that means that you have to get an order from a physician to initiate SCDs, which is your sequential compression devices, and perhaps, depending on how high the score is, some Lovenox to prevent a clot. So if you don't get these orders within 24 hours, the hospital gets dinged or fined. So they're like, administrators are on your behind for you to get these VTE orders. And I hate having, like, I'm a very proactive person. I don't like people micromanaging me. I don't like people on my back, which is another reason why I decided to become an NP, because I basically like to be the boss and I like to be the one giving the orders. I knew I had to get this VTE. Well, there was one physician that was notorious for being rude, abrasive, and just overall a bad physician. So he literally one day so doctors have their own area where they chart. And he hung a sign that said, "Unless it's life or death, do not talk to me." And he hung that there, which meant like, don't come talk to me, period, unless your patient's dying, which I think is very unprofessional. Just how they expect us to be available for them when they're rounding, I expect you to be available because your job is to write orders. So I needed a VTE prophylaxis. I saw the sign and I'm like, you know what? This is ridiculous. I'm going to go ask him for the order. So I go up to him and I'm like, my patient has a VTE score of so-and-so. I need an order to initiate VTE prophylaxis for STDs and Lovenox. And he's like, is this life or death? I was like, well, if he throws a clot, yes. And also, this is hospital policy that I have to get this from you. I can't remember whether or not he gave me the order, so I don't want him to speak and say he didn't. But it was just I couldn't believe he did that. So with that physician, I also wrote him up. So did several other nurses for that incident, because even if a patient is not dying, but let's say that a patient is in a lot of pain, am I supposed to leave my patient writhing in pain because the physician doesn't want me to speak to him unless it's life or death? Like, that's not appropriate. So I wrote up that physician, and that physician, what his privileges for that hospital were revoked. I'm not saying just because of what I said, but it was a pattern of behavior. So he no longer could go to that hospital. Instead, he works at a different hospital now, a different organization. So that was one instance so those are two instances where I feel very proud of myself, actually, for speaking up and for showing physicians that no, your behavior is not going to be tolerated, and I actually am going to do something about it, and I'm just not going to cower in fear or take abuse from you and do nothing about it. If you're a nurse out there, write up your physicians. My boyfriend is a nurse currently, And there's been situations, not everybody is as assertive as I am, and that's fine. I have to respect different personalities, but my boyfriend's had situations with with a certain physician on his unit, and I've been telling him, I'm like, and not only is it with him, he makes the girls on the unit cry, like just it's bad. So I've told him, I'm like, this physician needs to be written up. But until people stand up to these physicians, and whatever it is, whether it's a physician, a nurse practitioner, PA, I don't want to just throw MDs under the bus, but I only ever had problems with these two physicians, so that's why I'm saying physicians. But anyways, if whoever it is, if they are treating you in an inappropriate manner, unprofessional, do something about it. Don't let them ruin your day. Don't go home and cry. When someone does something to you and you can't stand up for yourself, you start to get that victim mentality and you start to feel helpless. And learned helplessness is very, very dangerous. I think Martin Seligman coined that term. And basically, with learned helplessness, I'll give you an example, right? When an elephant is small, they are chained with a strong chain and a big stake to the ground. And the little baby elephant will try and fight and fight and fight. But they see that they can't get free, they can't get loose. So that baby elephant learns that it's futile to fight because nothing happens. So what ends up happening is when the baby elephant grows into this huge animal that weighs tons, all that is needed to keep the elephant in place is a small stake with a little rope, and that elephant will not try to get free because essentially its spirit has been broken. He's learned helplessness. In his mind, in his mentality is, no matter what I do, I can't get free. And that leads to depression. That leads to depression, that leads to anxiety. So I encourage you that if you're in a situation where you've reported things, nothing is changing, well, then maybe you need to change environment. Maybe you need to change organizations. But do not stay in a place where you constantly feel like you are the victim or you are experiencing abuse, verbal abuse, whatever it is. Take action and do something to change your situation and to change your circumstance. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you hit the like button, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure you turn on that notification bell. It helps me tremendously and it means the world to me. Thank you.